Greg, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Batman Arkham Knight has officially been delayed.
Dun, dun,
The
dun!
upcoming Batman game from Rocksteady was originally slated to launch this fall. However, it has been delayed until 2015. It's still due to come to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Not surprising to me. What's really going to be interesting is all of these games that are retreating from the fall are now going to be in the early 2015, and the games that are in early 2015 will therefore have to retreat later in the year if they want to sell. So there's going to be a lot of moving about.
Moving and shaking.
Moving about. Evan writes in to Beyond at ign.com, just like you can, and says, Beyond crew, big fan from Trinidad. Started watching this year. I'm about to pick up a PS4, but it seems like everything is pushed to 2015. Is it just me, or are more games being announced way too far in advance? Seems like this generation started a year too early. While I'm waiting for E3, it seems anything I'm personally interested in is going to be cross-gen. What's the most compelling case for getting a PlayStation 4 right now? Why are these games getting delayed? I think they all had to get announced, right, to get you excited to buy a PlayStation 4, to get excited for this new generation of hardware.
Yeah, I think the Batman announcement was, I was talking about this a little earlier with someone, is a little disingenuous. I think they knew that game wasn't coming out this year.
Yeah.
And that they announced it to kind of get you revved up and to get it out there, and then now it's on your radar. Now you're stoked about it, especially because no one really liked Origins as much as they liked the other two Batman games that Rocksteady did. And they're like, yeah, we're only kidding. This game's actually coming out in the spring. Yeah, I don't think that you announce a game 2 months ago and then suddenly you're like, it's going to miss the window by 6 months or something like that. Like, I just don't think that's how it works.
Yeah.
So I found that a little disingenuous. I think that, much like last generation, not so much so, but much like last generation, people are having more difficulty with this hardware than they expected they were going to, and that there's just more to do. There's a finer amount of work to be done on some of these next gen games, I think, than the last gen. And even though this isn't the SD to HD jump that happened between PS2 and PS3, I think that and these consoles are easier to develop for in premise.
Right.
I think that maybe they were like, we can get more horsepower out of some of these games, we can do better, we can make things prettier, we can make it run better, and why not take your time? I mean, it's not like there's a deluge of cross-platform games and cross-generation games coming out this fall still. So.
To your Batman point, I think you're 100% right. I think it was a PR move. You figure they announced it at GDC, right, when Infamous had just come out or was just about to come out. I forget the exact date of GDC, but your announcements for next gen were drying up, right? So you needed something to you can own that space. You come out on that stage, you get to own it. Batman gets to be the reason you own this PlayStation 4, why you own this Xbox One. However, brief that time, but it gets you excited, keeps that game on your radar. And then there are a lot of cross-gen. It seems like there's way more cross-gen titles this time than around. And maybe I'm not even cross-gen as much as like Metro. Here's some PS3 games we're repackaging for PS4. You're seeing it right now with Pixel Junction. There's all these different things that games that existed or Last of Us, things that we already saw now getting repackaged. Just because I guess it's an easier thing to port them that way, and I think there's a bigger magnifying glass on them because we always talk about that mid-tier's falling away.
Yeah, and the other thing is that when you have a generation that goes on as long as the one we're just coming out of, a lot of people feel very, very reluctant to move on to the next stage because there's just so much still they probably haven't played.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times the best incentive you can get, in this case, I think what people are finding is the best incentive you can give them is that you can have these experiences that you maybe haven't gotten to yet on the previous generation, on the new generation hardware, and you get this slightly better version. You get a more definitive version of it. Like for instance, if I'm a person who has a PS3 and I'm not sure if I want a PS4, but I haven't bought The Last of Us yet, just like early, let's say go back to the beginning of this year. Then, knowing that Last of Us is coming to the PS4 could be a pretty good reason because I already have the interest in that game, but now maybe it's one little kind of pseudo reason to go into it.
Yeah,
so that's one of the reasons.
First-party titles make so much sense to me because you had your 360, you didn't play a lot of PS3 or any of it, so then you take all these PS3 games people missed and put them on this platform that's winning the race at the moment.
I think business happenings behind games, they take a long time. It's very glacial, and they make decisions way ahead of time. I think that what you found when PS4 started selling like crazy before it came out, when the pre-orders were going crazy and stuff, were a lot of developers going, Pixel Junk's a good example, being like, well, people really are going there, and maybe it's a good chance for us to go and put these games on there. Let's remember that PlayStation 3's response, market response was very tepid when it came out. And that there weren't many cross-gen games. There were cross-gen games back then, but there weren't many of them. There were just straight-up PlayStation 2 games for years after the PS3 came out. So it's like, there's no reason for them to just do that. Like, this is a straight-up PS3 game, with the exception of a lot of Japanese publishers, because people are migrating to PS4, and it is a reason for you to buy these games. If you want to buy Metro, and let's say Mass Effect comes to PS4, which I assume it's going to, based on some rumors and all these kinds of stuff, if these start to kind of stack up, then you just go and buy a PS4 because... Well, why not? I think there's plenty of reasons to own a PS4 with games just available on PS4. But if you didn't think so, well, then these games are more compelling to you too.
And going the other way on that same argument, from a business standpoint, sure, you're right. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to make only a PS3 game, right? But it makes even less sense to make only a PS4 game when you look at the install base on the two systems. It just makes a lot of sense that if you're going to make a game for the PS4, well, let's see if we can fit it somehow, some way on the PS3 because the install base is that many times larger.
Yeah, or go the other way and make it easier on yourself. But I'm not sure if
Make that
who's
money.
doing that.
Yep.
Yeah.